September 20, it is good to be back. Took a couple of weeks off. In all honesty, I had a pretty brutal downswing. Didn't really feel like vlogging. That can happen when you do this. Just keep getting beat down again, and then beat down again. And the last thing you want to do is jump on and have to talk about it. Recouped a decent amount of that money I lost during the downswing. Not all of it yet, but I'm working on that. Now, one thing that this vlog has not yet had is a trip to Las Vegas, which to me is amazing. But somehow that's been the case. The last time I went to Vegas was in January. I actually ran real bad in that trip. Not at the poker table. I ran bad as my wife and I, we were making the trip back from Vegas. And right on the outskirts of town on 95 heading towards Reno, still in the Vegas area, someone left a dark black scooter sitting in the middle of US 95, which is of course a dark black colored road, as they all are. I didn't see this damn thing till it was too late, and I hit it dead on, and it jacked up my car real good. So I had to wait around an extra day while just some basic repairs were made. I had the bulk of the work done back in Reno. Ended up running pretty good at the poker table though that day that I stayed later, so it kind of worked itself out there. But that was the last time I was in Vegas. My wife and I made that trip down there to see our first Golden Knights game back in January when they played Nashville en route to the Stanley Cup final. So heading back here in October, gonna go shoot a couple of Silver State sites down in the Vegas area. I actually just got done shooting one in Fort Churchill, an old Army fort from the Civil War days outside of the town of Urington, Nevada. That was pretty cool. And now I'm heading to the town of Tonopah, which is halfway between Reno and Vegas, for those of you that have made the drive. I'm going to shoot a quick Silver State sites on the Mizpah Hotel there, a historic hotel in the middle of that town. And then I'm headed back down to Vegas, where I will be for several nights. And then, and this was just decided a couple of days ago, I'm going to be heading from Vegas to Elko, Nevada on Friday. And that is because the President of the United States is going to be in Elko on Saturday, and they want this event covered, so they realize that I'm kind of the go-to guy for these out-of-the-way stories. So they want me to go there, and I'm going to get to expense the hotel and everything from that night. So it'll be a rarely seen Reno to Vegas to Elko trip with some poker and plenty of Silver State sites shot in between. But right now I'm heading down US 95 to go to Vegas, and I'm actually a little bit short on time because tonight I am once again doing the thing that I like doing more than anything else at the moment in Vegas. Final in favor of the Golden Knights. The Sabres got kind of a cheap goal late when they pulled the goal lead down 3 goals with 2 minutes to go. So Marc-Andre Fleury played a great game. William Karlsson got on the scoreboard for the first time this year. Good to see him get a goal. Jonathan Marchessault got 2 goals if you count an empty netter that Vegas got. I did, for once again, I've started kind of a bad habit here of going to these games, meaning both times I've gone to Golden Knights games, I bought something. Last time I bought a hat, this time bought a windbreaker. So I wouldn't recommend that, but still, love coming here to T-Mobile Arena. I took an Uber over here. I'm staying over at the Tuscany Casino on Flamingo, but I'm not going to Uber back. gonna get some walking in along the Vegas Strip. Always love a good walk down the Vegas Strip. This time though, pretty good walk from T-Mobile Arena over to Tuscany on the corner of Flamingo and Koval. Basically the plan for this trip is going to be head over to shoot a Silver State sights tomorrow morning at a place called the Pioneer Saloon. Maybe some of you have heard of it, a little bit out of town. And then gonna hit up the cash game tables. Gonna probably go to Venetian if the games aren't good there. We're gonna head over to the Wynn. I knew that Poker Go had done this studio here at the REO, but I did not know it was to this extent. Very impressed by this signage over here. Tons of people will be seeing that walking by here at City Center, and Poker Go is going to get a lot of attention. I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised that it's that fancy. I did subscribe to Poker Go for about a year. I did not resubscribe. A lot of good stuff on there. I don't know. I guess it just didn't quite move me to pay an extra $90 for another year, despite the fact there were a lot of good Poker After Dark lineups that I saw on there. And as someone, I loved watching Poker After Dark and high stakes poker back when it was on real TV. I never missed an episode. I just didn't, it didn't feel the same. It was not the same thing. I wish it was. Didn't bring the joy that it once did to me watching it. But pretty cool studio here nonetheless. I popped into Planet Hollywood here for a minute, and they just have poker tables just in the middle of the casino. That's bizarre. You don't see that too often. Usually there's an actual room, but not here. I wonder if that means the game's running good. One other thing I meant to mention is Dennis Hof died today. He's driving down in some of his territory where was running for office, and I got the news that he had passed. Not sure how yet, but stunning news, really. I had the chance to interview him on 3 different occasions. 3 very different occasions. The first came in 2017 when a truck crashed into the famous Moonlight Bunny Ranch, which he owned. He was extremely nice. I also interviewed a hooker on live TV, which was different, but there was that. Then there was October of 2017. His house had burned down in a fire the year before, one of his many houses, come to find out. But I went to that site and met him there and did a piece about the 1-year anniversary of that fire and interviewed him for that. And then just last month, I interviewed him in his house in Carson City about his run for office. He seemed very excited, didn't seem like he was in poor health or anything. So I'm not sure what the deal was. Maybe you will know more by the time this vlog posts, but Dennis Hof, dead at 72. Love him or hate him. I can't call him a friend, but it felt like that to me. A true Nevada legend lost today. Checking in on this vlog from the small, out-of-the-way town of Good Springs, Nevada. That's about 40 minutes outside of Vegas going south. You just take 15 down to the town of Jean and turn right, then it's about 8 miles away. And as you can see, I'm here at the Pioneer Saloon. This is a saloon that was built in 1913, so it really goes back, and you can still really see that history here. And I would have thought that this place would be kind of dead in the middle of the day on a Wednesday, which is when I'm taping this, but as you can see here, every single parking space is full and it is jammed clearly the tourism that's been boosted by the website Travel Nevada and other places has worked out well for the Pioneer Saloon. Segment ended up working out quite well. At first I wasn't sure that it would, but ended up getting some really good interviews here and trying the Ghost Burger here at the Pioneer Saloon. It's really good if you're a fan of spicy stuff. I got some video of that. Let's roll that right now. The Ghost Burger. I feel like the Trooper showing food on this vlog, but definitely good stuff here. Good Springs, Nevada. Alright, it's 1:34 in the morning and I am booking a win. Not a big one, but a win nonetheless. Here at the Venetian, there was not a great lineup to play against. Did have one pretty big fish show up, and it resulted in the ultimate example of like a what if hand. Like a hand that should have been my hand, but it wasn't. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And a few other interesting hands, including back-to-back interesting spots with pocket tens coming up tomorrow morning, because I do not have the energy to do it tonight. All right, I'm here at the Tuscany Casino on Flamingo Road in Las Vegas, where I'm staying this trip. Actually, the first time that I've stayed here since 2010, when I came down to play the World Series of Poker with a buddy of mine. And as is usually the case, I did not cash. But a memorable experience nonetheless back in the pre-Black Friday era. We also went to Brock Lesnar v. Shane Carwin. And I think it was like UFC 120 or something along those lines a long time ago. But back here, nice place to stay, by the way. The pros being it's cheap. You get big rooms, as you see. You get refrigerators in the room, which I like. The cons being if you don't stay on the top floor, you're going to hear people walking above you. So pro tip, get a top floor room here at the Tuscany. But good place to stay, only 2 blocks really off the strip. Anyway, so as I mentioned, I played last night over at the Venetian, and it wasn't a great game, but it wasn't a terrible game either. I just struggled to get in the spots I really wanted to against the players I really wanted to be in those spots with. But the first hand that I played came early on in the session, and we get a under the gun opener to 20, and the hijack calls that bet. Cutoff also calls, and I am on the button with pocket tens. Funny how rarely this situation ever seems to come up in Reno because people are raising with fewer hands, but it doesn't feel like I get pocket tens and have the opportunity to 3-bet too often. It seems like it's either a situation where I can't do it or I shouldn't do it in Reno. But here I got a great chance to do it, so I'm going to put in that 3rd bet. I make it 100, hoping I can get one color out of the mix. Under the gun thinks about it for a while, finally ends up folding the original raiser in this hand. And everyone else folds as well, so I don't end up getting any action on those pocket tens there. Maybe I made it a little bit too much, but I don't think so. Shortly after that, we get a $10 straddle from that under the gun player. Under the gun 1 makes it 35, and I'm in the hijack with pocket tens. So now we have a hijack raise of an under the gun straddle. Definitely still a spot where you should be 3-betting, I feel, with pocket tens, so Once again, I decide on a sizing of 100. Straddle folds and it's back around to the hijack, who thinks about it for a second and makes the call. And the flop comes out, a pretty good one for me, 7-deuce-3 with 2 diamonds. He checks, and I was not 100% sure about my sizing here. Ultimately, I settled on 125. He thought about it for a while and ended up folding, and I wondered, was that too much if I'm trying to get called by worse? Certainly, he could call me with pocket 8s and pocket 9s, and maybe a7 should he have found his way in there with that hand. But it was definitely possible that he had a hand like pocket jacks when I re-raised him before the flop, and he's not going to fold there, so it's definitely tough to get called by worse, but I think you have to bet for equity protection because I'm up against a hand like ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack. I mean, these hands have a lot of equity against pocket 10s, and just to give him a free card I think would be a mistake. So I end up taking down 2 pots with the pocket 10s early. Next hand, it folds to the hijack, and he raises to 20. I'm in the cutoff with 5-7 of spades. Definitely not a call I have to make, but I decide to peel the flop here with a suited connector in position. I call the $20 and it's heads up to the flop, which comes ace-king-7 with 2 spades. A flop I'm expecting him to continuation bet on a lot, but he doesn't. He checks it over to me, and I decide to make a semi-bluff at it, thinking that maybe I can get him off of a hand like pocket 9s. I bet 25, and he calls, which is definitely what you should expect there, by the way. If someone raises pre-flop and they check to you on the flop, don't expect them to be folding too often. But anyway, I don't listen to that advice in this hand. Turn comes the king of spades, giving me the flush, pairing the board with the king. He checks again, and I don't want to bet too much here. Now I'm hoping he has a hand like pocket 9s that he will call me with. I can't see him having checked an ace twice. And it's possible that he could have a king here as well now, that would give him trip king. So I bet 45. And he doesn't think too long about it and makes the call. River comes in offsuit 6. He checks, and I bet 115. I bet 115. He snap calls. I turn over my hand and I'm good, and he shows me 1 king and throws the hand in the muck. So end up winning a nice one there. I ended up losing a hand flush over flush shortly after that, which was unfortunate. So I was up a decent amount at that point, but then I kind of got around back to even. And then I just have to kind of vent about a hand here. If you guys could indulge me for 1 minute. So this is just aggravating, and this kind of showed the way the game was playing and the guy that I wanted to get in hands with. We get an under the gun straddle to 10, MP1 flats, and I call with pocket 5s. There's a kid, 23 years old, I heard him say. He looks about 16. He's on my direct left, and he raises this thing up to 50. Under the gun calls, and then MP1 raises it to 170. So he just flatted the initial straddle. Now he raises to 170, and I have an obvious fold here with pocket 5s. The kid on the button makes the call to 170, and the under the gun player calls the 170. And much to my dismay, I see a flop of deuce, deuce, 5, 2 clubs. So, you know, not that you could ever really argue that folding is the wrong play there, but it doesn't stop there. Under the gun checks, MP1 bets 175. The kid on the button calls, and under the gun jams all in for about 600. I'm just wanting to throw up all over the table at this point, seeing all this action. MP1 snap calls that bet, and the kid thinks about it. So at first, it's looking like I would have had a chance to quadruple up in a hand, which has never happened before. I don't think I've ever had that happen. Kid ends up folding though. So I would have had to settle for a mere triple up, basically. Anyway, so the kid folds and the board runs out. The flush doesn't get there, but a king comes on the river, and I think actually a third deuce came in. The under the gun guy who decided to peel pre-flop had king 8 of clubs, so he ended up flopping the king high flush draw. I don't know what he was doing in there with king 8, but not the first time, by the way, I've seen king 8 go crazy, as you will remember in a previous vlog. But the guy in MP1 did have aces, as you would expect. So I would have stacked, well, I wouldn't have stacked them, but I would have doubled up through both of these guys, because I think they both had me covered at the time. That one aggravates me, to say the least, but that's how that went. I ended up booking a win of, let's check Poker Income Pro here, of $156. Not exactly the best session, but not the worst either. So anyway, that's going to wrap up vlog 1 from Vegas. But we're not done here. We'll have one more for you coming up next week here from Las Vegas. Let's hope things go better. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe to this vlog if you have not already. And follow me on Instagram @BenDeach, and we will see you next time.